Okay, guys, I'm back with part two. So, getting on to what happened at the show, I'm going to try to go through this a little bit quicker. I've just got my notes here and I'm just going to kind of go down them. So, the Wednesday night, I got together with a whole bunch of reborn mummies and artists and whatever. We had dinner at Krabby Joe's. The show owner came and made an appearance, said hi to everyone. She was only there maybe like 5 to 10 minutes max and then left. But while she was there, someone had asked her if they were going to be putting the show schedule and the like meet and greet schedule up on the website, like so that people would know when everything was happening. And the show owner's response was, "Oh, I'm so sick of hearing about the website." And I was like, well, the website should be like the main priority when running a show. Like, not everyone has Facebook. Not everyone has Instagram. Most people rely on the website to give them the most up-to-date information. So the website should be a priority and it should be a concern and it shouldn't be an, oh, I don't even want to deal with it kind of thing. So that was the first thing that I was like, okay. Vendors were upset on the night before the show because they had moved from a bigger room to a smaller room because booths had not sold out. So they moved to another room and they had basically changed the entire layout of the show floor. And so vendors were in completely different spots than what they thought they were going to be. So they were not happy about that because some of them had selected locations on the map that they wanted to be, and now they weren't going to be there. So they were not happy. So now, first day of the show, we walk in, and McPherson's did announce that they canceled. They were pulling out of the show. They announced it on the morning of the show opening. And I just want to say, I'm not going to go into the details on why they canceled. I know what the details are, but they had good reason to cancel. It should not reflect badly on them at all. They had good reason to cancel. And I support them on their decision. And by the looks of it, they weren't the only vendor that canceled because we counted, there was 13 empty booths on the showroom floor. If you look at my video from the first day of the show, you will see all the empty booths. I purposely filmed the empty booths to show you guys because I was flabbergasted. Yeah, there was 13 empty booths. 6 of those were supposed to be McPherson's, but the rest, I don't know who they were supposed to be. But they were all empty, and there was only 13 vendors on the floor. So we were kind of like, wow, this is not going to take us long to go through. I can't see us spending 3 days here. So we went around the showroom floor, did our shopping, did our interacting with people. If you took your time and shopped and everything, it took about an hour to go through. If you were literally just looking, it took about 10 minutes to go through. So we went around and around quite a few times. And by 12 noon, they decided that they were going to close for an hour for lunch. Just on a whim. It wasn't part of the schedule. They just decided to do it. Because I guess they realized that vendors do in fact need to eat. So I was like, okay, so, again, up until the actual show was happening, even during the show actually happening, changes were constantly being made throughout the show. Nothing was set in stone, it seemed. So complete lack of organization and pre-planning on their part. There was also issues with the classes that we found out about. Now, Bean goes into how it affected her class on her video, which, like I said, I will link all the other videos in the description below. But there was the classes were supposed to be 2-day classes, and then they moved them down to a 1-day class. And a lot of people were unaware that that had happened. Even some of the instructors weren't aware that that happened. Bean mentions in her video that like they needed 2 days for that class, but they wouldn't let her go beyond the 1 day. There was a hair painting class that was supposed to be on Thursday morning, the opening morning of the show. And then I guess what happened is they had the classes scheduled for the Wednesday and the Thursday, which you generally don't have classes scheduled on the opening day of the show. The Rose Doll show will do the classes the 2 days prior to the show opening, because a lot of times the instructors also have booths and they need to be on the showroom floor when it opens. And plus, like, people aren't going to want to attend a class on the first day of the show because most people like to get to the show when the doors open, so they have first pick when they're shopping. That's generally how it works. And so I guess they finally had realized that like double booking on the same day like was not a good idea. So that's why they moved it down to a 1-day class. And then the hair painting class was supposed to be on the Thursday morning, and they moved it to the Wednesday evening or late afternoon or whatever. So that teacher had to teach a full day class of advanced painting, I believe it was, or something, and then had to follow that up with a hair painting class. She was exhausted at the dinner. I felt bad for her. And she's like, we were supposed to have food provided. There was no food. Bean kind of said the same thing, like no food was provided, even though the website advertised that students would get breakfast, lunch, and dinner provided. There was nothing. And some of the students for the hair painting class didn't show up because the instructor pretty much figured that they probably weren't aware that it had been changed from the Thursday to the Wednesday. And so they didn't come for the Wednesday. And she's like, the only thing I can do is if they show up tomorrow for the hair painting class, the only thing I can do is give them their supplies. And I was like, well, really, they should be refunded because they obviously weren't notified of the class changes. So that was a mess. And we had another lady during that hour that they closed for lunch on the first day. There was a lady that we hadn't seen in quite a few years, an old friend of ours. She came to our room to have some lunch because we had bought stuff to make sandwiches. So we're like, come on back to our room. You can make yourself a sandwich. She came with her daughter, and they had taken one of the classes and the day before, and she was like, wow, like, you know, there was no food. She's like, I think she said that in that class they did get a lunch of some sort, but they didn't get like the breakfast or dinner portion or something like that. But anyway, she was just saying that you know, there was hardly anyone in the class, which seems to be like the general consensus that there wasn't many signups for the classes anyway. Yeah, so, and then apparently the vendor rules were, they were not allowed to do demos of their products at their booth unless it was pre-scheduled by the show. They were not allowed to do, like, signing of dolls at their booth because then that was considered a meet and greet. Again, no food. And they can't say anything negative about the show or else they'll be sued. So that was the rules, and I'm pretty sure that's probably why some vendors pulled out. All of their signage on the showroom floor was handwritten on lined notebook paper and pinned up with paper clips. It's like, really, like, you guys can't even just print out some signs off of a computer to make it look a little more professional. Like, It was just like everything was an afterthought and disorganized. Like they just really didn't take any care in anything they did. So on the first day of the show, we were already hearing some vendors telling us that they weren't planning to come back for the next show because they were already like fed up with everything. Like I said, there was constant changes going on. There was no meet and greet schedules posted. I seemed to be the only person who knew when their meet and greet time was. Everyone else did not know when their meet and greets were happening. And so some of them were just like asked on a whim, oh, maybe you should do your meet and greet now. So like no pre-planning there. Again, very disorganized. On the first day of the show, they decided to close the show floor early. They closed, I believe it was around 5 or 6, somewhere in between there. Even though the show floor was supposed to be open till 8, they were like, oh, there's only 3 customers on the showroom floor. Let's close early. So they closed early. And apparently there was 3 customers that arrived after they closed. They had driven many hours to get to the show. And they were very upset when they arrived to find the show was closed early. The show owner's response to that was, oh, who cares? It was only 3 people. Also wanted to say we did have some issues when we were checking in. The hotel could not find the Friday night reservation. We tried looking under all different names and they could not find our Friday night reservation. Thankfully, the class coordinator, she came with me to the front desk and she got everything with that cleared up. So thankfully, thanks to her, because I kind of feel like had she not come to clear it up, we probably wouldn't have had a room on the Friday night. So that was that. And also the other issue was they started a raffle on the day of the opening day of the show. And tickets were anywhere from $25 a ticket to $40 a ticket, depending on the doll that they were raffling off. And there was no mention of a charity. There was no mention that the funds from the raffle were going to any sort of charity. I know I haven't attended Rose in a couple of years. But the other times that I attended Rose that they had raffles, they would select a charity every year to raise money for, and that's where the raffle money would go to. I looked up Ontario raffle laws, and by law, raffles are only supposed to be for charity. As far as I know, this raffle was not for charity, so that is a big issue to me. That's against the law. It's Ontario raffle laws. You're supposed to have a permit and you're supposed to be collecting for charity, not to line your pocket. My friend basically had 2 dolls stolen from her that was placed in the raffle. She was helping out at the show owner's booth. And she was told in advance, because she was wanting to sell 3 dolls from her collection. She was told in advance that she could place them at the show owner's booth and they would try to sell them for her. The show owner would only accept 1 to be placed on her booth. And she went ahead without even consulting my friend. She never asked her for consent on this. She just went ahead and told my friend that the dolls had been donated to the raffle, which to me that is outright stealing. My friend could have sold those dolls for a lot more money than having them placed in a raffle, because I don't know if they sold very many raffle tickets. And so she was told that she would get some money from the raffle ticket sales for the dolls that were donated. To me, donation means you voluntarily give the dolls to the raffle, which is not what happened. That part really, really, really makes me mad. Because I have fundraised for charities for years. I've been fundraising for charities since I was in grade 5. And that's how I came to know the raffle laws, because when I was a little kid wanting to fundraise for cystic fibrosis for my cousin, I wanted to hold a raffle. And then I realized all that went into holding a raffle, and it was like there's all these legalities, and like for a little kid that's too much. So I just had like garage sales to raise money and donate it to Cystic Fibrosis Canada. But that I've known the laws since I was 5 years old. I've known that raffles should be for charity. You need a permit, you need all this stuff. So that really, really upset me. And then the doll that was placed at the booth did sell, but there was no mention of any of that money going to my friend. And so as it turns out, after the show was over and done with, my friend asked for some money from the sale of the doll as well as the raffles. She was met with some hostility. They tried to guilt trip her by saying they wouldn't be able to feed their kids if they gave her the money and all this stuff. And she basically had to fight to get some sort of money. And in the end, all she got was $600 for 3 dolls. Like, she could have made over $1,000 with the sales of those dolls had she done it herself. But she was taken advantage of. She has a really big heart, just like I do. And people like us that have big hearts, we tend to get taken advantage of. It's the sad part of being a kind, giving person. So that was really upsetting. Okay, on the Friday evening, there was a vendor who was basically accused of doing stuff that she didn't do. And they were basically yelling at her in front of customers, embarrassing her in front of everyone. She ended up packing up her booth and leaving in tears. So by the time Saturday rolled around, we were down to 8 vendors. People were dropping out like flies. A lot of people had gotten bored of the show and started to go over and visit McPherson's during the day or go shopping at local stores. People were bored. Let's go to the last day of the show now, the baby shower brunch. So, oh man. Okay, so the day before, or the night before the baby shower brunch, the show asked a lady who is in a reborn group that I'm in, and she was literally just an attendee of the show. She had no association with the show. She didn't work for the show. She was literally just attending the show with her daughter. The show approached her the night before and basically asked her to take over the baby shower portion of the brunch. They informed her basically they had no games planned. They had no prizes. Even though it was advertised that there was going to be games and prizes, there was going to be a giveaway for a free reborn. There was this big fancy menu advertised for the brunch, and tickets were $65 a piece. we didn't get any of what was advertised. Let me just say that. If you watch my video that I posted of the baby shower brunch, you will see we did not get anything that was advertised. So this lady, bless her heart, she was like, okay. She took over the baby shower. She only had literally overnight to come up with games, to come up with prizes. And honestly, if it wasn't for her taking up their offer, I'm pretty sure that the baby shower brunch would have been canceled. I'm pretty sure, because they didn't have anything planned for it. They also had told the lady that we were going to get a continental breakfast, which was not advertised. I was like, what? So my friend pulled up on her phone the menu that was advertised and showed it to this lady who was taking over. She went to the show about it, and they then came back and said, okay, we would be able to go to the hotel restaurant and order breakfast there. So we were like, okay, at least we're getting hot food, hopefully. So this lady had to come up with games overnight. She had to go around to vendors and ask them if they had any like little things that they could donate as prizes, because she did not have a car. So she could not get to any stores to buy stuff overnight. So she had to literally go around and ask for prize donations. So that was the games that you saw in my thing. There were no decorations. And again, she couldn't get out to stores to get decorations. So she used some baby clothes that she had received in a trade and laid them out on the table as decorations. So those baby clothes that you kind of saw all over the table in my video, those were the decorations. And I'm not putting her down at all. Like, you know what? For having such short notice like she did a fantastic job. She saved the baby shower brunch, because honestly, I don't think we would have had anything had it not been for her. So thank you to Cynthia. I did put her name in my video, so I will say her name, Cynthia. So then they came around. They decided that instead of us going to the restaurant, we were going to eat on the showroom floor. They came around. They gave everyone menus from the restaurant, and we ordered whatever we wanted. Then we had to wait. It seemed like over an hour we had to wait for our food to come. And by then we had finished the gift exchange. We had finished the games. So people like dispersed, which is what I showed in my video. People kind of like went around the showroom floor to kill time. They finally bring the food, and they bring it to us in takeout boxes. Okay. Basically like $13 meals in a takeout box. And we paid $65. So yeah, that was kind of a ripoff. Then we're getting to the end now, guys. We're finally getting to the end of my list. The contest, the reborn contest. So they didn't even have like beginner, intermediate, and advanced categories. It was like everyone just entered into like the preemie category, the newborn category, the toddler category, and it didn't matter what level of reborning you were at, which isn't fair, because like someone who's like a beginner can't really go up against someone who's an advanced artist. Like, it's just not proper. But they did that. And as they announced the winners, instead of announcing the winners by their actual name so that we would know who the artists were, they just announced them by the numbers that they were entered in. And I was like, what the heck? And then like they didn't get handed a medal or a certificate or anything. Like, I won an award at the Rose Doll Show, and they had everything ready, because the contest closed, I think it was like 2 days prior or a day prior. So they had already done the judging like the day before, or maybe even 2 days before, so that they had time to make up the certificates with the winners' names on them. So like when they called the winners up, when they called me up, they handed me my certificate. They put a medal around my neck. And it was like that for first, second, and third place winners. Everyone got a medal. Everyone got a certificate. I didn't see anything handed to the winners, except for People's Choice and Artist of the Year did get a trophy. But I didn't see anything else handed to anyone else. So I don't know if they eventually did get like at least a certificate of some sort. I don't really know. But that's what I saw. Then once they finished announcing the winners, a speech was given to thank everyone for coming, blah, blah, blah. Then the show owner's husband gets up and does a big speech about how much money they spent on the show, how honestly, I was like, is this seriously happening right now? And then they proceeded to say that the $95 a ticket dinner, cocktail dinner for the evening had been canceled. And they literally canceled it like 30 minutes before it was supposed to start. They said that customers could email them after the show if they had bought tickets to that, and they would try to make it up to them. That was the words they used. They would try to make it up to them. I was like, does that mean they're getting a refund or what? I don't know. So at that point, all the vendors started packing up because it was like really like, you know, the show was supposed to be open until 8, but at that point it was just like everyone wanted to get out of the room. So that was the IAC doll show. Since then, there has been people trying to leave feedback on the show on their Facebook page. And of course, all of that is being deleted. The show owner has been going off on Twitter like at all hours of the day, hours on end, attacking various people that try to speak out about things that have happened at the show, to warn others to not like fall for the next show. So she's been on there attacking basically anyone and everyone that says anything negative, and is basically calling us bullies. So I'm sure I'll get it next, but I don't really care because I promoted this show and I really believed in this show and I really wanted it to work. And I feel bad now that I promoted the show and got people to go to the show and basically get ripped off. So I don't want it to happen to anyone else. So I will not associate with the show anymore. I will not be returning to the show unless someone completely different starts up a new show and tries to do it properly. As long as this team of people are running the show, I will not be a part of it and I will not be attending. So they can ban me. I don't care. I won't be back anyway. Because they've already mentioned that they're planning 2020 and they're looking for a new location. Even though when the husband gave the speech, he said that the Lamplighter Inn staff was really willing to work with them for the next show and was going to even give them free hotel rooms. But now suddenly they're trying a different location. So I don't really buy that. And another issue that just came to light yesterday that really was like the final nail in the coffin for me. I honestly could not believe this. So the sculptor Bonnie Sieben, she's a big sculptor. I actually have her Shea kit on pre-order. I'm so excited about. She posted that her granddaughters entered the raffle to win the Saskia doll that was being raffled off. And unfortunately, they weren't going to be there when the winner was going to be drawn, but she had made an arrangement with one of the vendors there that if they won, they would take the doll for them and deliver it to them. And her granddaughters were going to share this doll. They won. There's video evidence of them winning. I've seen it, and I was even there when they drew their names. I even heard it myself. Bonnie Sieben's name was drawn, and somehow, I don't know exactly what happened, but somehow the doll ended up with the show owner, and the show owner is now refusing to give the doll to the winner. She's refusing it. So basically, she's taken a doll from children, which is despicable, and she is just refusing to give the doll. So this vendor that was supposed to take the doll to give to them has now given a doll from her own collection to these two children to share. Like, I'm flabbergasted. And by the way, this is the same vendor that was the show class coordinator, and she was the one that that fixed our hotel situation. So thanks to her, like, she's really stepped up in ways. So I got to give her credit. But that's, like, she shouldn't even have to be giving a doll from her collection. They won the raffle fair and square, and they should, you know, they paid $25. No, actually, for the Saskia, it was $40 per ticket. And they won. So the fact that they're withholding an actual prize from the raffle is just, that's fraudulent right there. Plus, I've already told you guys the raffle was like against raffle laws anyway. And some of the dolls in it were stolen, essentially. So, yeah. So that is the IAC doll show for you guys. And I'm apologizing that this had to be 2 parts, but honestly, like, there's just so much, and there's so much more that I'm not even covering. It's covered on the other videos I'm linking below. And there's also other issues that I'm not going into because those are more, hearsay issues. So I'm only giving stuff that I witnessed firsthand, basically, and things that I experienced. But there is way more to this than even what I covered. Like, I can't even, it would have to be like a 3-part if I wanted to cover everything. Like, it's awful. I feel so bad for all the people that lost money on this. Like, people flew in, they spent money on airfare, hotel, the food. You know, you have to buy your meals while you're there. Like, we were savvy in that. We bought those little mini boxes of cereal and a carton of milk so that we just had some cereal and yogurt and milk every morning for breakfast. And we bought stuff to make sandwiches for our lunches. So we did save some money there. Otherwise, we would have had to, like, eat out for all 3 meals every day that we were there. But we did save some money in that sense. But we still had to, you know, get our dinners every night. We had to pay for some hotel nights. and we spent $65 on our baby shower brunch ticket that wasn't even what was advertised. We didn't get what was advertised. But I just want to clarify that, like, the baby shower brunch was not canceled. Like, I think some people are getting that confused with the dinner. It wasn't canceled. It was going to be canceled had it not been for Cynthia taking over. But again, like, we did not get what was advertised. The meal was not what was advertised. There was no reborn giveaway like was advertised. And the show had no games or prizes planned whatsoever. They left it up to an attendee of the show to step up and do it. And if she hadn't, I'm sure that it would have been canceled. But, you know, we did get a meal. At least it was a hot meal. It wasn't the greatest meal, I'll say. Like, my toast was burnt. The omelet was thin and dry. But it was like basically like a $12.95 meal, not $65 worth. So we were definitely ripped off with our $65. And then the poor people that had bought the $95 dinner tickets didn't even get anything. So I just feel bad for everyone, for the vendors, for the attendees that spent their hard-earned money on this show and was just ripped off in all ways. And, you know, the attendance was low. I'm sure there was less than 100 people that attended the show. And that's mainly because, like, other than me promoting it and some other people that did a little bit of promoting, the show itself really didn't promote their own show. And they didn't get the information out there. You know, like, they didn't let people know what artists were coming. Like, especially if there was big name artists coming, like, all this information needed to be out to draw people in, but they didn't put anything out. They didn't put any meet and greet schedule up so that people would know, like, who was going to be there, what day. Like, there was no draw, really. And so it was just poorly organized, poorly run. People were ripped off, and it sucks because Canada needs a show like the Rose Show. But there you have it, guys. That's my long review, and I hope you found it helpful, and I hope that you don't fall for the 2020 show, because honestly, like, I don't trust these people at all anymore. And as long as they're behind the show, then I'm not going to be supporting it anymore. All right, guys, see you next time. Bye.